Well, good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the September 14th, 2022 hearing of the City of Pasco hearing examiner. My name is Andy Kottkamp, and I've been appointed by the City of Pasco to serve as the land use hearing examiner. My job is to render decisions on various applications that are authorized to come before me, which include all the items that are on the agenda for today. I will consider any testimony and evidence presented at today's hearing, as well as all the written materials that are already on file in order to make my decisions. My decisions on the first four items on today's agenda, those are final decisions that are subject to appeal. On the rezone applications, the last three items on tonight's agenda, I make a recommendation to the Pasco City Council, and the Pasco City Council will make the final rezone decision on all of those applications. This is the only open record public hearing for those rezone applications. And what the City Council will do is then conduct a closed record hearing where they'll have this hearing and all the written materials to view in order to make their final decision on each of these rezone applications. Now, the hearing process still does have certain rules, but I try to conduct the meeting in a relaxed and informal manner, but we still have a procedure we're going to use. We'll take each item separately, obviously, and for each item, staff will present their report and make whatever recommendations that they wish to make. Then the applicant or the applicant's representative is given an opportunity to present their testimony and evidence. The applicant does have the burden of proof to show compliance with all the applicable rules and regulations. Then we'll turn it over to the public. If there's any member of the public that wishes to testify on the application we're discussing, you'll be given an opportunity to do so. If there is any testimony in opposition to the project, I will give the applicant an opportunity to submit whatever rebuttal testimony that they wish to make. If you are going to testify, I'll have you come on up to the podium there that's in the hearing room. You'll state your name and your address. And if you're going to give testimony, I will swear you in as a witness. And ask that you keep your testimony relevant to the application that we're talking about and not to other issues beyond the scope of that proposal. If you have anything in writing that you want to submit tonight, we can make those arrangements. For the members of the public that are here today that may not be familiar with this hearing process, this is not a question and answer period. This is not a time for you to ask questions of staff or questions of the applicant or questions of the hearing examiner. This is the time for you to present testimony and evidence as to why the proposal does or does not comply with all the applicable rules and regulations. As I indicated, the applicant does have the burden of proof to show compliance with all the applicable rules and regulations. And that's what I'm looking for, is testimony and evidence as to how the project does or does not comply with those applicable rules and regulations. So I just want to make that very clear to everybody that this is not a time for questioning of anybody. It's time for you to present your testimony if that's what you wish to do. I have the option to keep the record open if I think there's a need for additional written testimony to be submitted. But in any event, my written decision will be made within, or recommended decision, will be made within 10 working days after I close the public record. Now, except as provided for in the Pasco Municipal Code regarding requests for reconsideration, my decision on the first four items on today's agenda are final and conclusive unless they are appealed. Those appeals are by means of what's called a land use petition action, and they have to be filed with Superior Court within 21 days of the date of the issuance of my decision. And if the appeal isn't timely filed, the appeal would be barred. As I indicated on the rezone applications, those are recommended decisions, not subject to an appeal. The final decision will be made by the Pasco City Council. Now, I've reviewed each of the items that are on today's agenda. I don't have any interest in any of the properties or the proposals to be heard today, and I'll be able to fairly and objectively consider each item. And outside of receiving and reviewing the staff report for each item, along with all those attachments to the staff report, which generally included all the application materials, there's site plans for some of the applications and drawings and maps. There are public comments on several of the matters tonight. There are also agency comments. Other than receiving and reviewing all those items, I've not had any communication regarding any of the items that are on tonight's agenda. So with those representations, if you do have an objection to me serving as the hearing examiner, you need to come forward and state your objection at this time. All right, not seeing any objection, we'll turn to the first item on today's agenda. This is a preliminary plat application, given application number PP 2022-002. And as indicated, this is a preliminary plat application to develop property within the city of Pasco that is more specifically described in the staff report as well as in the application materials. Now, for the record, I will admit into the record that staff report and the application materials and the entire master file materials for this matter into the record at this time by this reference. We've also had some items that were submitted by the applicant after the preparation of the staff materials. There's a memorandum of support in support of the plat approval submitted by the applicant's attorney. And then there is an email from a Caleb Stromstad that was sent to me today. Those two items are also going to be admitted into the record at this time by this reference. And I'll turn this matter over to Mr. Adams, I believe, for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. For the benefit of our viewing audience, this is master file number PP, which stands for Preliminary Plat 2022-002, Big Sky Developers, care of Caleb Stromstad. This is the Dunes 222 single-family lot preliminary plat. This proposal is located south of and adjacent Burns Road, approximately 3/4 of a mile west of Broadmoor Boulevard. The site was rezoned in February of 2021 from RT, which is residential transition, to R3, which is medium density residential. The site contains approximately 47 acres. Applicant wishes to subdivide the property into 222 single-family lots. For the benefit of the record, public notice was mailed out and published in the Tri-City Herald on 22 August 2022. The comprehensive plan designates the site for mixed residential commercial development and for 6 to 20 dwelling units per acre. The proposed plat has a density of approximately 4.7 units per acre, which is below the comprehensive plan density threshold for the area. However, application for this proposal became vested on January 26th, 2022, and the ordinance which codified minimum densities took effect on February 1st of 2022. A connection will be made to the Burns Road access egress point, and additional access egress points will be required with extensions of both Sandifer Parkway and Dent Road coming from the east. A few tentative plat approval conditions are as follows. The project must participate in a proportional share for the intersection improvements at Broadmoor Boulevard and Burns Road, the cost of which shall not be less than $846 per trip and not to exceed $1,735 per trip. We received an email from Caleb Stromstad this afternoon with a request to modify that condition with a sentence that reads, "This shall be implemented through a voluntary agreement under RCW 82.02.020 to be prepared by the city and reviewed and reasonably approved by the applicant prior to final plat approval, with applicant's final proportionate share based on the city's adopted traffic improvement plans for the intersection, commercially reasonable cost estimates for the project, and email communication between the staff and the applicant," unquote. As well, 2 separate and approved fire apparatus access roads shall be provided where the number of dwelling units exceed 30, and access roads shall be placed not less than 1/2 of the length of the maximum overall diagonal dimension of the property or area to be served, measured in a straight line between access as per IFC section D 106.3. So those are the highlights of the staff report. And there's a plat, representation of the plat on the screen here for your viewing benefit.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Adams. I appreciate that. I don't have any questions, everybody. I have reviewed this matter several times. I'll also let the public know, just so you're aware, my job is not to ask. I can ask questions if I'm confused about something, but I've reviewed everything and I don't have any questions of staff. And I don't want you to read anything into whether I do or do not ask questions. My job isn't to ask questions to try to hurt an applicant or help an applicant. So if I understand what the project stands for, what they're trying to do, then I may not ask questions, and I just don't want anybody to read anything into the fact of whether or not I do or do not ask questions. All right, now is the applicant ready to proceed?
Yes, Mr. Examiner. My name is
Good evening.
Mark Fickus. I'm a land use and real estate attorney from Yakima, here on behalf of Big Sky Developers, the applicant. And I thought I'd just lead off. I have with me tonight Mr. Caleb Stromstad and Peter Harpster from Octera Engineering that's acted as the applicant's representative throughout this process.
Mr. Fickus, are you going to be providing any testimony or argument?
More in the way of summary, but if you'd like to swear me in, I'd be happy to be sworn in.
All right, I'll have you raise your right hand for me, please. And sir, do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you very much. And now what would you like to tell me?
And again, my name is Mark Fickus. My address is 405 East Lincoln Avenue. I'd like to just summarize the application. This is a significant plat in the northwest portion of Pasco, the Broadmoor area, developing area. This is for 222 lots on 47 acres of R3 zone property. I'd like to thank the city staff, specifically Mr. Adams and Rick White, for working with the applicant during this process. If you've reviewed the record, there have been significant changes made to the staff report and SEPA documents over time. And I think you'll find that the SEPA is complete. There were no SEPA-based conditions. There should be no opposition here tonight. And we appreciate Mr. Adams' staff report and basically have very few, if any, disagreement with any of his findings and conclusions. I'm going to spend a little time in a few minutes just requesting a few clarifications of his tentative plat approval conditions set forth on pages 7 and 8 of his staff report. Again, I guess I'll reserve the right if there's any opposition or any questions the examiner have, but as you know, the examiner has primary jurisdiction under PMC 21-25-050 to make a decision on this matter. There's really only 6 simple general approval criteria that needs to be met. I think Mr. Adams has done a good job on pages 6 and 7 of his staff report saying how this plat as designed and redesigned based on the plat map that's still up on the screen meets all those criteria. Again, I don't think I'm going to take any time going through those unless there's somebody that disagrees that those general criteria have been met. They all basically refer to comp plan consistency, making sure adequate provisions for roads and utilities have been provided. What I'd like to spend a few minutes before I have Mr. Stromstad speak and provide some testimony on some more technical aspects of the plat are the tentative plat approval conditions. They're contained at pages 7 and 8. There's 12 of them. I only have comments on 4 of them. And I think I'll save for the last one, the hardest one. Mr. Examiner, you'll notice that the initial tentative plat approval condition relates to an offsite improvements and contribution of a proportionate share at the intersection of Burns Road and Broadmoor Avenue. You're probably wondering why I wrote a 7-page legal memorandum that's part of the record. Well, over time, there was a negotiations going on as to what were the offsite impacts based on the traffic impact analysis of this plat. And the good news is, I think the city staff, traffic engineering department, and public works department are now in agreement that the plat does have a direct impact and potential nexus on the Burns Road and Broadmoor Avenue intersection, and the applicant is certainly willing to contribute, using Mr. Adams' terms, a proportionate share for intersection improvements. One thing we would like, well, I'll go ahead and do it. The only correction or addition we'd like added to that is a separate sentence, and it's in the email to Mr. Stromstad that you noted that was made part of the record. And I do just want to read it into the record. And again, it's for legal clarification to show how the proportionate share is to be paid. And as you can appreciate, Mr. Examiner, attorneys, cities can only ask for money from an applicant for public improvements if there's a direct connection, and it has to be proportionate under a bunch of case law and legal authority that I've cited in the memorandum that I won't review with you now. But here's the sentence that we would like added to the end of paragraph 1. Again, you should have that as part of the record. This shall be implemented through a voluntary agreement under RCW 8202020 to be prepared by the city and reviewed and reasonably approved by the applicant prior to final plat approval, with applicant's final proportionate share based on the city's updated traffic improvement plans for the intersection, commercially reasonable cost estimates for the project, and email communications between staff and applicant, including the email that was made part of the record. What's missing, I do this for a living, and oftentimes, Mr. Examiner, these voluntary agreements are prepared in advance, and I would have loved to have an actual draft agreement to attach the application. The problem on this one is the traffic impacts, the intersection improvements haven't been finally designed, and the cost estimates are still in process. So our client is certainly willing to work with the city staff, and we appreciate the parameters that the city has agreed to. And we would hope that the voluntary agreement would be submitted sooner rather than later, so we don't hold up final plat approval. So basically, the legal vehicle is not SEPA, it's not the subdivision statute, it's the 8202020. And I'm sure the city attorney can help the city prepare a draft staff report or draft voluntary agreement. If not, I would be happy to prepare one. So that's the only change to tentative approval condition number 1. I have a brief comment on tentative plat approval conditions 2 and 4. They're not really conditions. My understanding is the plat as designed, as presented to you, as on the screen, meets those approval conditions. We have no objection to those being included, but our understanding is the plat that you're looking at that has been presented for final approval, that has been properly noticed for SEPA in this public hearing, meet conditions 2 and 4, and no modifications to the plat map that you've reviewed are required. And finally, the last one, and again, it's just in the way of a clarification, I hope, although I'd appreciate any staff input if they would like, is item number 10. And as drafted, that reads, overhead utilities are required to be rerouted below ground. What we'd like is a small clarification to say overhead utilities, quote, serving the Dunes plat are required to be rerouted below ground in accordance with PMC 2135-100. The reason is this is an unusual situation, Mr. Examiner, where the electricity that serves this plat comes from a different provider. There are Franklin County PUD lines located overhead that will not serve this plat, that serve other property further west. And under the case law that I've cited in my memo, it would be inappropriate to have this applicant be required to locate someone else's power lines underground. And we think that was just a small omission. Again, we're asking that clarification consistent with the Pasco Municipal Code. So that's basically it. We support the staff report. Their findings and conclusions are accurate, and we recommend that this plat be approved with conditions recommended by staff as clarified above, and I'd be happy to answer any legal questions if they come up on your behalf. And I'd like Mr. Stromstad to have a few minutes to go over some more technical impacts of where the city and the applicant's traffic engineer may have disagreed slightly, not on the trips per day that impact the Burns Road, Broadmoor Avenue intersection, but on the scope of the project. So if you don't have any questions, that's all I have for now.
The only question that I would have is regarding the conditions of approval, if you're willing to answer this or authorized to answer this, other than the concerns raised or clarifications requested on for those proposed conditions of approval. Does the applicant have any objection with any of the other proposed conditions of approval?
My understanding is they do not, that the applicant accepts all the other tentative approval conditions recommended by staff.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Fickus.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Caleb Stromstad, Octera Engineering. I'm at 2705 St. Andrews Loop in Pasco.
All right, sir. I'll have you raise your right hand for me, please. And do you focus here? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give today will be the truth?
I do.
All right. Thank you very much. And sir, you're here also as an agent authorized to appear and speak on behalf of the applicant and property owner?
Yes, I am.
All right, then. Now, what would you like to tell me about the project?
In brief summary, we agree with the staff report with the recommendation for approval with the revisions that Mr. Fickus specifically mentioned on number 1 and condition number 10. The background on number 1, we've been working with city staff for the better part of 5 or 6 months, working on the proportionate share agreements, and there's no disagreement on the analysis of how to determine how many trips we're sending to that intersection. It's just determination of the actual scope and the cost of those improvements. The reason we included the email is just for the record to document our staff conversations and what the expected outcome is as we work through determining what those costs are and the actual proportionate share amount, and that's why that was added to the record. The background on number 10, Mr. Fickus covered that pretty well. There's existing overhead lines that are owned and maintained by Franklin PUD that are on the Burns Road frontage of the subdivision. They do not serve this plat. This is actually in the Big Bend cooperative service area, and those lines will be extended into the subdivision to serve the power needs, and they will be underground. And so per the PMC, that specifically states any utilities serving the subdivision will be installed underground. The specific condition that FPD's power lines would remain overhead would apply to that. And so that's why we asked for that clarification. I would also just add that we've worked really close with city staff over the last few months. All the items that we're talking about tonight have been discussed, and we would ask that the record be closed tonight and allow the hearing examiner to make his decision on the testimony given. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Stromstad. Is there anybody else that wishes to testify on behalf of the applicant? I'm not seeing anybody coming up. So is there any member of the public that came tonight that wishes to testify on this matter? I'm not seeing anybody coming up. Is there anything further from staff?
No, sir.
Those proposed changes to the proposed conditions of approval, specifically 1 and 10, does staff have any objection to those clarifications in the proposed conditions of approval?
No, sir.
All right. All right, then, Mr. Fickus, what I'm going to do, and Mr. Stromstad, is I am going to close the public record portion of the hearing at this time. I will have my written decision made within the next 10 working days. We'll now turn to the second item on tonight's agenda. This is what's called a special permit. This is a permit for a use of a Daycare, given application number SP 2022-007. And this is, as I indicated, an application for use of a structure as a daycare on property located within City of Pasco, that is more specifically described in the staff report as well as in the application materials. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to admit into the record at this time by this reference that staff report, all the application materials, all of the noticing documents, the comments that have come through, the SEPA documents. I'll admit all those items. Indeed, I will admit the entire planning staff file into the record at this time by this reference. Now, we also had some items that came in, some comments that came in after the staff report. There is a letter by Hurley and an email by Wold, and both of those will be admitted into the record as well. And I'll turn this matter over to staff for their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Again, for the benefit of our viewing audience, this is master file number SP, which stands for Special Permit 2022-007, Leticia Valdez, for the step-by-step child care in an RS-12 zoning district. This parcel is located at 1305 Road 44. The property is currently zoned RS-12 and is developed with a 1,456 square foot single family dwelling unit and a couple outbuildings. You can see those on the vicinity map. The site was annexed into the city in 1996 and assigned RS-12 zoning in conjunction with that annexation, and the zoning has not changed since that time. I do need to make one correction, and that is the site contains, to the staff report, and that is the site contains approximately 2.3 acres. Applicant wishes to operate a child care facility with 6 employees and a maximum of 28 children. The facility would operate from around 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Public notice of this hearing was sent to property owners within 300 feet of the property and in the Tri-City Herald on August 22nd, 2022. Child care facilities require special permit review under the Pasco Municipal Code under unclassified uses, and commercial daycare facilities qualify as community service facilities level 1 as defined in the code. The code requires 1 parking space for each employee and 1 space for each 6 children. The proposed facility would accommodate between 4 and 6 employees and between 15 and 28 children. And so based on the maximum range of these numbers, the parking requirement would be 11 spaces rounded up. According to the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, 9th edition, daycare centers generate approximately 4.38 trips per student, which translates to around 122 trips per weekday with 28 students. We have, as mentioned by the hearing examiner, we have received 3 letters in opposition to the proposal, and they have been forwarded to the hearing examiner to be included in the report as exhibits. Those are the highlights for the staff report.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Adams. I do not have any questions for you. Is the applicant ready to proceed?
Mr. Examiner, we don't believe the applicant is present in the audience.
All right, thank you. Mr. Adams, was the applicant given notice of the date, place, time, and manner of this hearing?
She was by email, and she responded by email thanking us for that information.
Okay, let me finish a note here. All right, thank you. Did any member of the public that was here come to testify on this matter? If so, come on up to the podium. Not seeing anybody moving up. Is anybody moving up there, Mr. Adams?
Yes, we have someone at the podium.
Oh, there we go. All right, sir, I'll have you state your name and address for me, please.
My name is David Hurley. I live at 4311 West Murray Court, which is next door to this property. You have my letter on record.
I do. Do you want to give testimony tonight? I need to put you under oath. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
Affirmative.
Thank you. All
Okay.
right, sir, what would you like to tell me?
Well, you have my letter with three objections. Okay. My main concern is the parking. My life's been interrupted by two of his contractors already. And for some reason, the public just doesn't respect parking. And I've even had the sheriff's deputies park in front of my driveway, which is just unbelievable. If he would put his parking lot in the back end and come from the other street, I think things would work out. But the way it is, I'm sure people would be parking in front of my driveway and just run in there and get their kid. And that's my driveway to my shop. I don't use it every day. But it seems like when I open the gate to go out of my shop, there's somebody in my driveway. Okay? I would assume if he put his parking lot on the back end and people could drive in and then change the direction and drive back out, it'd be much safer, because the way it is now, if they back out, they're going to back out onto Road 44, and it's full of hot rodders anymore. The neighborhood's changed. The previous people that lived there always drove through into the backyard and turned around and came back out. My other issue is the sewer stinks in the summertime. I don't know what the problem is. With all those extra people, there's going to be added load on the sewer. I don't know if it's going to mess it up or not, but that's the city's problem. You have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you for coming in, Mr. Hurley. Is there anybody else that wishes to offer any testimony on this matter? All right. Hearing none, is there anything further from staff?
It looks like we have someone coming to the podium.
Oh, all right, I talked too quick.
Hello, good night. My name is Jesus Vera, and I live in 82 Hudson Drive in Pasco, Washington. I'm the husband to Leticia Valdez.
Okay, I didn't catch your name. You're gonna have to speak a little bit slower on that.
Sure.
What was your first name?
My name is Jesus Vera Acevedo. I'm husband to Leticia Valdez. I'm the guy to buy that property on 1304 Road 44. So I understand what the previously person said about the parking spaces. So we'll try to keep an order with the parking spaces, just in case you guys decide to approve the special permits and the daycare. So my wife, she have 20 years experience in daycare at home already. So we try to improvements at new center, a daycare. We try to provide service at the community. So that's what I want to say. Well, I think we don't have problems with the parking, but we have like a 6 parking right in the front, and we have parking in the back. And if you guys decide to give it the license, we do parking enough and not affecting any neighbors. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for coming in. Was there anybody else that wishes to testify on this matter?
My
Yes,
name is
ma'am. Your name and address, please?
Mary Lee Hurley at 4311 West Murray Court in Pasco.
All right. I will have you raise your right hand for me, please. And do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And what would you like to tell me?
My concern is hearing the number of children that will be there, 28 children. That's quite a number. It's all a residential area where we live. And to have a commercial piece of property come in is a concern. I'm concerned about the children. road, like my husband said, Road 44 has become a speed area where there's cars that are speeding down that road. I would say 50 miles an hour and maybe even more than that. And I'm really concerned about the children and also, like I said, the residential area. There's a lot of us elderly people in that area, and to have that many children brought in to the area. I love children, but it's all residential. And so, and my concern is the children getting hurt, and that's basically it. It's just going to be a real change to the neighborhood by bringing this into the neighborhood. It could be worse, but we'll see. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that wishes to offer any testimony tonight?
I don't see anybody else.
All right. Is there anything further from staff?
No, sir.
All right, then what I'm going to do is I will close the public record portion of this hearing, and I will have a written decision made within the next 10 working days. We'll turn to the next item on today's agenda. This is also a special permit, given application number SP 2022-008. And this is an application to locate additional portable classrooms at Chiawana High School, again on property located within the city of Pasco that is more specifically described in the staff report as well as in the application materials. For the record, I will admit into the record at this time by this reference that staff report, all those attachments to the staff report, which included all the application materials, all the noticing documents, the SEPA documents, the site plan drawings. I shall admit all those items. Indeed, I'll admit the entire planning staff file into the record at this time by this reference, and turn this matter over to Mr. Adams for the staff presentation.
Thank you again, Mr. Examiner. This is Master File SP, which stands for Special Permit 2022-008. Paul Knutson and Knutson Engineering representing Chiawana High School. This parcel is located at 8125 West Argent Road, which is Chiawana High School campus. The site is zone RP, which is residential park, and is developed with the Chiawana High School. The site contains approximately 79.3 acres. Again, applicant acting on behalf of Pasco School District Number 1 is requesting a special permit to relocate 6 portable classrooms and related infrastructure from surrounding schools to the south half of the northwest parking lot at Chiawana High School. And you can see the parking lot, the west parking lot on the map there. They would be located in the area just north of the main buildings there. And there's some existing portables on the parking lot right now. They'd be just north of those. Public notice of this hearing was sent to property owners within 300 feet of the property and to the Tri-City Herald on 22 August 2022. The district received a special permit to construct the high school in 2006, and it was completed in 2009. And by 2016, the school district was compelled to apply for another special permit to place up to 8 portables on the site, and that was granted in 2017. The school district is proposing to locate 6 new portable classrooms from McLaughlin, McGee, Emerson, and Whittier schools to that site. The parking lot is mainly used by students. Only about 60% of the stalls are used during school days. On most school days, about 200 parking spaces remain vacant. And if that is not enough, there is additional land on the Chiawana site for another parking lot. And those are the highlights of this report.
All right, thank you very much. Once again, I don't have any questions for this project. That's understood by the hearing examiner quite well. Is the applicant ready to proceed?
Good evening. Hi, this is Paul Knutson, 5401 Ridgeline Drive in Kennewick, Washington.
All right, Mr. Knudsen, would you raise your right hand for me? And do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you very much. And
Um,
sir, you're here as an agent authorized to appear and speak on behalf of the applicant and property owner today, is that correct?
Yes, I am, and they're also here in the audience if they're inclined to testify.
All right, what would you like to tell me?
Thank you. Appreciate the city staff for helping us get this item on the docket. Jeff summarized it really well, how 2009 this high school was built, the second high school in Pasco, and we come 13 years later, and we're at a point where the capacity of the high school is exceeded by 25% of what the original design was for in a short amount of 12 years. And you can kind of see, looking at the history of these last 12 years and the explosive growth that Pasco's seen and all the additional housing and plats that have come along. They bring families, they bring children. Those children need to be educated. And so we're running out of places to put the kids. The school district's actively aware of that, and portables are a mechanism, a tool that they use as they need to, as the age of the students changes, whether it's in the grade school levels and they need portables at those schools, or as that group of kids gets older, gets to the high schools. We are, as some additional background to explain why the need for the additional portables here. I mean, it's obvious there's more kids now. They need to have a place. Pasco High School, the other high school in town that the school district operates, is on a smaller site in downtown Pasco. It doesn't have any additional capacity to add more portables. Chiawana is the largest site that they've got that's active, so it makes the most sense for them to go there. And I'm also happy to say that the school district is engaged right now in design for a new 80-acre high school site, which is going to, tentatively we're calling it Pasco High School number 3, but it would serve north of the interstate. Presently it's at Road 60 in Burns is the present location of it. And so this adding these portables, we know has to be through this process with the special use permit, but it is, again, just something to note that's temporary, that this isn't a permanent. They don't permanently want 30 portables at this site and having a whole separate school in their parking lot. The long-term goal is to get, with voter approval of bonds, to get a new high school up and running by the year 2025. So that's all. Does the examiner have any questions for me as the applicant?
I don't. I see more and more applications to erect and install portables because it's hard to get a bond passed to build a new school, so they end up putting Band-Aids on. So, but anyway, I understand what's going on here, and I don't have any questions. I appreciate all your work on this, Mr. Knudsen.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'll turn this over to the public. Did anybody from the public come out to talk about this project tonight?
None present, Mr. Examiner.
All right, thank you, Mr. Adams. Is there anything further from staff?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. So what I'm going to do is I will close the public record portion of this hearing, and once again, I'll have a final decision made on this within the next 10 working days. We have one last special permit application. This is given application number SP 2022-009, and this is an application for a daycare as well. This is application by Ms. Olga Rodriguez for a child care center on property located within the city of Pasco on land that's more specifically described in the staff report as well as in the application materials. Once again, I will admit into the record that staff report, all the application materials, the noticing documents, site plan drawings, location photographs. I'll admit all those items. Indeed, I'll admit the entire planning staff file into the record at this time by this reference and turn this matter again over to Mr. Adams for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Again, this is Master File SP 2022-009, Olga Rodriguez for Rodriguez Child Care Center in a C1 retail business zoning district. This parcel is located at 621 West Clark Street and is Zone C1, which is retail business. The site contains approximately 0.32 acres, about a third of an acre. Applicant wishes to operate a child care facility with 5 employees and a maximum of 25 children. The facility would operate from around 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And for the benefit of the audience, this application was noticed to the public on 22 August 2022. The proposed child care facility is in a mixed commercial residential neighborhood. The proposed child care facility is located 1 block north of West Lewis Street. West Lewis Street is an arterial street, and a Ben Franklin Transit bus stop is located about a 5-minute walk from the center on West Lewis Street. The site is developed with a 1,300 square foot office building. Again, as per city code, commercial daycare facilities qualify as community services facilities level 1 and require a special permit review. And also 1 parking space is required for each employee and 1 space per 6 children. As such, this proposed facility would accommodate up to 5 employees and 25 children, and therefore the total required parking would be 10 spaces rounded up. Applicant has indicated that there are 12 on-site parking places. The IT daycare center, per the ITE, daycare centers generate around 109 trips per weekday with 24 students. And those are the highlights for this report.
All right, thank you. And from staff's understanding, are those parking spaces all in front of the building? Is that where those 12 spaces are going to be located?
Yes.
Or 10 spaces, yeah. All right, thank you very much. All right, is the applicant ready, present on this one?
Good evening, Mr. Examiner. My name is Victor Rodriguez. I'm husband to Olga Rodriguez. I'll help translate a bit for her.
Well, I got to put you under oath first. I'm going to have you raise your right hand. And Mr. Rodriguez, do you agree that you will be truthful and honest in your interpretation of your wife's testimony tonight and of your own testimony tonight?
Yes.
All right. And then would you have your wife raise her right hand and ask her if she agrees that any testimony tonight will be the truth?
Que todo el testimonio que vas a dar es la verdad, es la verdad.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So thanks for coming in. And what would you like to say?
Just clarification on the site there on the red line. It just also includes the lot on the, I guess on the left to it. Yeah, right there. And really, that was the only thing I would want to that I wanted to add. But we just wanted to thank the city staff for working with us. They've been very helpful with our process and getting this on the docket as well. So really, that's all that we wanted to come up here and say.
All right, there are some proposed conditions of approval in the staff report. Did you or your wife have a chance to look at those? And do you have any disagreement with them?
We have not.
You have not seen them?
I've not seen the no, sir. No miro más en los que no quieren ponerlo. Cuando tomaron el papel, no, yo no miré ninguno que se opusieron a eso.
No, pero no, pero no. ¿Por qué se hay?
Yeah, I guess we didn't see those.
Okay, well, I'll go through them just briefly. There are 6 of them. these are recommended, they're not, it'll be up to me to decide, but this permit only applies to those two parcels that you have, that you'll need to get approval for city development review, so you still got to go through the city for their any required approval for their the development use. You got to meet the parking standards that Mr. Adams talked about. You got to keep the grounds maintained in a professional manner at all times.
Okay,
That you maintain all the necessary state and city of Pasco licenses, and that the permit becomes void if you don't do those things.
yeah, I
Do you have
misunderstood.
any objection to any of those?
No, I misunderstood what you were saying. So, okay, gotcha.
All right. So you had seen those before?
Yeah, I misunderstood what you said, that there was something else. So, yeah, I did see these, yeah, we're good.
Okay. All right. And thank you for clarifying that other parcel. I was, that was very helpful to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. I'll turn this over to the public. Did any member of the public come to testify on this matter?
Don't see anybody.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Is there anything further from staff?
No, sir.
All right. Then, Mr. Rodriguez and Mrs. Rodriguez, what I'm going to do is I am going to close the public record portion of this hearing. And once again, I will have a written decision made within the next 10 working days. We'll turn to the next item on today's agenda. This is a rezone application. This is given application number Z 2022-009. This is an application to rezone a parcel from light industrial to medium industrial. The property is located within the city of Pasco, that is more specifically described in the staff report as well as in the application materials. Now, for the record, I will admit into the record at this time by this reference that staff report, all those attachments to the staff report, which included all of the application materials, all the noticing documents, the comments that have come through agency and public, the site plans, the overhead mapping. I'll admit all those items. Indeed, I'll admit the entire planning staff file into the record at this time by this reference. And we also had sent to the hearing examiner on August 23, 2022, memorandum from the city of Kennewick, and that will be admitted into the record as well. And I'll turn this matter over to, again, Mr. Adams for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. This is master file number Z, which stands for Rezone 2022-009, and Nicole Stickney representing AHBL and Road 40 LLC. This is for a rezone from light industrial, which is I-1, to medium industrial, I-2 zoning. This site is located along the west side of South Road 40 East, adjacent to Lakeview Mobile Home Park. The site is currently zoned I-1 and it contains approximately 70.79 acres. Applicant acting on behalf of Pasco Road 40 LLC has applied to change the zoning from I-1 to I-2, as mentioned before, to match the adjacent northern parcel. These parcels are planned to be developed together. Public notice of the hearing was sent to owners within 300 feet of the property and posted on August 22, 2022. The proposed development is for a 2 million square foot industrial park over 111 acres. So it would be those two parcels, the current site and the parcel above. The proposed site development would include access drives and parking lots. The I-2 zoning would be consistent with the existing zoning to the north and also to the west. You can see the darker coloring on the zoning map that indicates that that's a heavier zoning designation. Current uses in the vicinity include undeveloped vacant property to the north and west, ag uses to the northeast, and a mobile home park to the southeast. This site has been vacant for many years, and the comprehensive plan designates the lot and all the surrounding for industrial uses. The industrial designation allows for I-1, I-2, and I-3 zoning. The site was assigned RMH2, which is a mobile home park zoning, in conjunction with the annexation, the original annexation. And the site was rezoned from that to I-1 in 1992. The site has not been rezoned since. Amazon has been in the process of developing two 1 million square foot distribution centers to the north and to the northeast of this site. And a special permit for a Pasco School District preschool was approved near the south entrance of the proposed development. The intersection of the project south driveway and the Pasco School District access point is very dangerous, with a 40 mile an hour speed limit and both vertical and horizontal curves and a blind left-hand exit turn. This intersection needs to be evaluated for traffic safety mitigation measures. Staff is recommending a concomitant agreement for traffic safety and buffering mitigation measures relating to this dangerous intersection. And those are the highlights of our report.
Thank you. And yeah, I did read with interest the comments regarding the traffic and from Washington State Department of Transportation. Other than the agreement that you referenced, that would be part of this rezone, though, if it is ultimately approved by City Council, the development permits are where all of the significant traffic study and traffic impact studies are going to be required. Is that fair to say?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's representative here tonight who wish to speak?
Yes, good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name is Nicole Stickney. That's spelled Stickney.
And an address for you? Work address is fine.
Sure, 5804 Road 90, Suite H in Pasco, Washington. That's the address for AHBL.
All right, thank you. I'll have you raise your right hand for me, and you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth.
I do.
All right, thank you very much. And you are here, as you indicated, as an agent authorized to appear and speak on behalf of the applicant and property owner tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you. And what would you like to tell me?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner, and good evening. Thank you to staff for the preparation of your staff report and for helping and assisting along through this process. As noted by staff, this is a pretty straightforward project. We are just looking to upzone the property, change the entitlement. What is happening here is the landowner wants to proceed with some speculative development, if you will, and look to build some shell buildings that could be occupied by a variety of different users. In doing so, the applicant also intends to purchase the property to the north. That has not yet occurred, but as you'll notice, the property to the north does already have an I-2 zoning designation, and therefore our request is to change this parcel to the south to match with the property to the north, the northern parcel. The reason why that's a good idea is just so that everything is consistent on the site and there's no difference in the zoning. And we do know that staff typically does encourage some uniformity in zoning for projects, even of this size. It's a good practice. So that is the basis of the request. It's really about opening up the uses to be a bit broader, if necessary, for future users at the site, and so that it can be marketed more widely and used more widely. As noted, there has been a lot of activity recently in the area, which is great for the city and is a real change from what as has occurred in the past. As they noted, this property has sat vacant for decades. So we want to prepare the property for this good use and for the range of possibilities that are allowed as primary permitted uses and conditional uses in that zoning district I-2. As you saw in my materials that I submitted, Mr. Examiner, I have outlined, because it is our burden of proof, the ways that this zoning petition does align with the requirements and the criteria set forth in code in the Pasco Municipal Code 25-210-030. And I won't repeat that because that's already on the record, but essentially we have identified the facts of how this would advance public health safety, how it can have a beneficial effect on the value and character of surrounding properties, and addressed the fact that it complies with the comprehensive plan most of all. Again, we're really grateful for staff's assistance. One thing I do want to take note of is that in the staff report, they indicated that a SEPA determination of non-significance has been issued for this project. That is not the case. We have not received any threshold determination at this point, so that is still outstanding. The city did put out an ODNS on August 2nd, and we've been waiting anxiously for those comments, which we have now received, and also for the final threshold determination. In closing, I would request that you recommend approval of this rezone. In terms of the concomitant agreement that has been suggested by staff, we feel that that is not warranted, and we would specifically ask that you not include that in your recommendation to City Council. The reason being, as you noted, those types of mitigation measures should be triggered or come about either under SEPA or with the development of the project itself. Clearly changing the color on a map and upzoning a property is not creating more traffic, is not going to create these problems. Instead, it just changes the entitlement of the property, which is already industrial, to a different type of industrial, and it's really at it's at the later stages that any project mitigation should be brought into effect. So specifically, they had recommended a concomitant agreement to address traffic safety and buffering mitigation measures, and we just feel that that is premature at this point with the rezone. So for those reasons, we would ask that you specifically do not recommend that to council. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for coming out tonight. We'll turn this over to the public. Did any member of the public come to testify on this matter?
Don't see anybody.
All right, thank you, Mr. Adams. Is there anything further from staff?
No, sir.
All right, then, what I'm going to do is I am going to close the public record on this hearing. I will have my recommended decision made within the next 10 working days. We will now move along to the next item on today's agenda. This is another rezone application, given application number Z2022-010. This is a request for a rezone from office to C1 and R1 on property located within the city of Pasco, that is more specifically described in the staff report as well as in the application materials. Now, for the record, I will admit into the record that staff report, all the attachments to the staff report, which included all the application materials and all the noticing documents, all of the site information. I will admit all those items. Indeed, I will admit the entire planning staff file into the record at this time by this reference. And once again, turn this matter over to Mr. Adams for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Again, for the benefit of the viewing audience, this is Master File Number Z, which stands for Rezone 2022-010. Priscilla Trujillo for Platinum Homes, representing Ramgar Commons. This is a request to rezone a site from office to C1 to the south and R1 to the north. This property is located at the northeast corner of Road 42 and West Court Street, specifically 4109 West Court Street. Again, zoned office currently. The site contains approximately 2.89 acres of land. applicant is requesting a rezone from office to C1 along West Court Street and R1 on the northern half of the property. Public notice of this hearing was sent to property owners within 300 feet of the property and posted in the Tri-City Herald on August 22, 2022. The site is developed with a home that was built in around 1943, and the balance of the 2.89 acre property is vacant, as you can see on the overhead. The comprehensive plan designates the northern half of this lot as low-density residential and the southern half for commercial. Low-density residential allows for RS20, RS12, RS1, R1, R1A, and R1A2 zoning, and may be developed with single-family residential development at densities of between 2 and 5 dwelling units per acre. The comprehensive plan designates the south half of the site as commercial and allows for neighborhood, community, and regional shopping and specialty centers, business parks, service, and office uses. The site was annexed into the city in 1989 and was assigned office zoning in conjunction with that annexation, and the site has not been rezoned since. The property is considered infill as development has occurred all around it. And as you can see on the map right now, the red area indicates the commercial land use designation, and the yellow above it is the low density residential, and you can see that those two land use designation kind of split the lot into two separate pieces. Also, as you can see on the map, there is no right-of-way dedicated adjacent to the site, and so a large portion of the lot will be dedicated to street right-of-way along West Court Street and West Ruby Street and Road 42. And both West Court Street and Road 42 have been developed and used as public right-of-way for quite a few years. Ruby Street, adjacent to the site, has never been developed to city street standards and remains a private gravel road. And those are the highlights of this report.
All right, once again, thank you very much. I understand this rezone request, so I will turn this matter over to the applicant. Is the applicant present and wishes to testify tonight?
Hello, Mr. Examiner. Priscilla Trujillo with Platinum Homes, the general contractor for the property owner. Address.
What was your last name again?
Trujillo.
All right. And I'm going to have you raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. Now, and again, you're here on behalf of the applicant and property owner tonight, is that correct?
Yes, Platinum Homes is the general contractor for the property owner. So here just to answer any questions, clarifying questions that staff or Mr. Examiner may have.
Have you had a chance to review the staff report?
Yes, and staff did a very good job putting it together.
All right, you don't have any objection to any of the representations set forth within the staff report?
No, none at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so
Anything
much.
else you'd like to add?
No? Only a request that, or, and ask that you recommend that it be approved.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Was there any member of the public that came to testify on this matter?
Nobody seems to be jumping up.
All right, then. Is there anything further from staff?
Well, sure.
All right, thank you. So what I'm going to do, Mr. Hill, is I am going to close the public record portion of this hearing. I'll have my recommended decision to the city in the next 10 working days. And we do have one final item on today's agenda. This is also a rezone application. It is given the application numbers Z2022-001 and Z2022-012. These are commonly referred to as Magnolia Heights, a rezone from office to C1 and to R3, medium density residential. This relates to several parcels, but the property is located within the city of Pasco that is more specifically described in staff report as well as in the application materials. Now, for the record, I'm going to admit into the record that staff report, all the photographs, the site plan drawings, the application materials, the noticing documents, there are agency comments, there are site plans for what the applicant proposes to do on the site if the rezone is allowed, but we are not talking specifically about that project, but whether or not the rezone is appropriate under the code. I'm going to admit all those items into the record. We also have, I have received other materials, and I'm just going to go through these as I have them in my on my file here. I have a, let's see here, this is a letter from the Tungzavik family. I have a, where do you have that? There is the Geiger, email from Geiger, email from Wilson, letter from Grimes, letter from Hurley, letter from Kent Toyota, letter from Shea. I don't know if this is a second letter from Mr. Toyota. I haven't compared the two. There is a voicemail message from a Lily Williamson. There is a petition from Tungzavik that has been submitted today. And there is an email message from, Dave Solom. I believe I've identified all the items that came to me after I received the staff materials. All those items will be admitted into the record by this reference. If any of you individuals are here and wish to testify, you do not need to read your letter or email into the record. It's already in the record. But if you wish to provide testimony, I'm certainly not going to disallow that. So all those items are admitted into the record, and I will turn this matter over to staff for their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Just for the benefit of the viewing audience, there were actually two rezone applications here, and we have combined them into a single report because they pertain to the area in red, different owners by the same developer. And so these are reports or applications number Z, which stands for rezone 2022-011 and 2022-012, both by PNR Construction, Paul Lavrentiev for Magnolia Heights rezone from office and C1 to R3. These properties are located south of Chapel Hill Boulevard and west of Road 100 and Broadmoor Boulevard. And the site is zoned office in C1. The site contains approximately 67 acres. An applicant on behalf of PNR Construction wishes to rezone this land from office and C1 to R3. As you can see, the current zoning is mostly C1. There's some office near Road 100 and also near Crescent Road. Public notice of the hearing was sent to the property owners within 300 feet of the property and posted in the Tri-City Herald on August 22, 2022. The site is vacant. I think there's a grain elevator on site. I don't know that it's being used for anything. And part of the site has been used for agriculture. The comprehensive plan has recently been updated and approved by City Council, and that updated comprehensive plan designates the site for medium-density residential. Medium-density residential allows for R2, R3, and R4 zoning, and RP zoning. Medium-density residential also allows for single-family dwellings, patio homes, townhouses, apartments, and condominiums. It allows for residential density from between 6 and 20 dwelling units per acre. The site was annexed into the city in 2001 and assigned RS-12 zoning and RS-20 zoning in conjunction with the annexation. And then the site was rezoned from RS-12 and 20 to C1 and office, as you've noticed on the map, with a concomitant agreement. As mentioned before, part of the site has been farmed with a pivot irrigation system, and it is considered infill property as development has occurred all around it. And as Mr. Examiner has mentioned, staff has received at least 10 letters in opposition to the proposal, which have been forwarded to the examiner for inclusion as exhibits in the staff report, and also a petition to stop rezoning of the land. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so I count 8 pages of petition. And so those are the highlights of staff report.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Adams. We'll turn this matter over to the applicant now. Is the applicant ready to proceed?
Yes, I'm Christy Badiola with Harms Engineering, and I represent P&R Construction and the property owners.
So how do you spell your last name?
Batiola, it's B as in boy, Atayola.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll have you raise your right hand for me. And do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right. Thank you. And what would you like to tell me about this project?
The area, as was mentioned by city staff, is designated for medium density residential, and the property owners would like to develop it as medium density residential. In order to do that, we need to get the zoning changed. It's currently commercial and office, so we can't develop it with residential. The R3 zoning is part of the medium density zoning and will allow for us to do a mixture of single family lots and townhomes. And our goal is to be at the low end of the range for the medium density zoning. And that's one reason why we included the proposed preliminary plat. It's just like a very preliminary version of what we're planning to do for that development. So you can see kind of the idea on lots and the configuration.
All right. Have you had a chance to review the staff report?
Yes.
And on behalf of the applicant, did you agree with all the representations set forth within the staff report?
Yes.
The changed conditions, did you have anything that you wanted to add on the changed conditions other than what was stated in the staff report?
I can't come up with any. I would have to go back and take another look, but
All right.
I don't.
And the other one, which is a lot of public testimony has come on. I didn't know if you wanted to offer any additional testimony on one of the criteria that needs to be proven by the applicant is what effect this will have on the value and character of adjacent property. want to add anything other than what's stated in your application materials and the staff report?
Sure. I mean, to the north of this development or this proposed development, there's an apartment complex, which is more of a high density residential. And then we've got commercial that's also to the north. And we have a mixture of types of or lot sizes for the residential around us on the south and on the east. And so with the layout that we have, we've done the larger lot sizes. With the larger lot sizes, that will be closer to where the other homes are. So yeah, there you can see kind of on the south and on the east end, we've got larger lot sizes. Some are as big as half an acre. And then as you go to the north, we have the smaller lots, the townhomes. It's a little denser on that end. And we'll be doing improvements on Crescent Road and connecting that up to Chapel Hill as part of the improvements on this, along with the frontage improvements on Road 100 and the interior roads. We are having a traffic impact study done for the development. It's not necessarily a requirement for the rezone itself, but will be part of the requirement for that development. And so we are having that done now. And I don't have any results of that yet. I haven't seen it yet.
All right. Yeah, well, I didn't. We'll talk about the project if the city council approves the rezone. We'll talk about the
Sure.
development probably some other time. I'm just looking at the criteria for the rezone tonight. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
There's some additional property that's at least designated for the medium density residential that is on the opposite, the mixed residential. I think that has maybe R3 zoning, but so it's similar to what's zoned right across the street on Crescent. And our connections are mainly to the main streets. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll turn this matter over to the public now. And if you wish to testify, please come on up and I'll have you state your name and address. And then I'll swear you in. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Jeff Grimes. I live at 10415 Pine Court in Pasco.
Mr. Grimes, I'll have you raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you very much. And what would you like to tell them?
First of all, I am one of the people that sent you a letter or sent a letter to the record, and I participated in the petition going around the neighborhood with the little bit of time that I have. The consensus of a lot of the people that we talked to was pretty much the same. That the most important part, I think, and I have more that I'm gonna read that prepared because I'm not a very good speaker. I can't remember things, but traffic safety, the quietness, and the safety of our neighborhood, and also the deal with traffic on Road 100 is already a nightmare. And no matter what the proposals are, roundabouts, there's stuff proposed that's not being discussed tonight, but there's a lot of things in the plans, but none of that is going to affect, is going to change the effect that putting this new neighborhood, rezoning it, would do to our neighborhood. When we moved there, I moved there in 2011, and it had already been a neighborhood for 5 or 6 years. And I currently live on the dead end road of 105 on the corner of Pine Court. My backyard is up against the property in question today. And according to the proposal, obviously it's not a done deal yet, but it would become Road 105, which is right next to my house, would become a through street. And it's obvious that changing the current zone would affect my property and my family's lives. And growth is inevitable. I understand that. Pasco's grown a lot just in the last 25 years that I've lived in the Tri-Cities. I'm not going to spend my time here whining and having whining about having neighbors looking down in my backyard or playing music too loud or having parties. Instead, I will more logical and legitimate issues. I'm concerned about the zoning status if it was changed from its current level. Excuse me, these issues affect the whole neighborhood equally and not just myself. I'd like to also note that one of the previous speakers on another issue tonight mentioned that normally the staff or the city council likes to keep zoning the same as, parallel with each other. Regarding the Amazon issue earlier, by changing, why change it from commercial and office, which is what it currently is, or at least that's what we were told. Why change that to medium density housing? You're going to add thousands of people to the area, and Road 100 can't handle the traffic. I'm on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for my job, and I see issues on Road 100 all hours of the day and night. I understand that there's a proposal to install roundabouts and remodel the 182 intersection because of all the growth going north of the highway with businesses going in. I believe that'll make it worse, and that's without adding another 1,000 vehicles. If you put this new neighborhood in, there'll be probably 800 to 1,000 more vehicles in the area. All that's going to do is move the problem further south to Maple, Willow, Argent, and Court Street, which are currently already hard to get onto Road 100 from. The existing traffic is increasingly bad and getting worse. Turning onto a Road 100 from Maple, Willow, and Argent certain times of the day takes a long time because of all the traffic, and that's because of the stoplight. If you put a roundabout in there, anywhere near the 182 interchange, it's going to be even worse because the traffic won't have any brakes. The yield lane from 182 to Road 100 south, coming off of the highway, is always a backed up mess. The left turn between the Circle K southbound on Road 100, almost daily. Matter of fact, today I left my house 2 different times, and both times I had someone pull out in front of me at that intersection. Not looking because it's just dangerous already. And St. Thomas, which is also another side street that comes off of Road 100, people turn there all the time and cut in front of people because they're impatient with the traffic. Excuse me. With the new growth on the north side of 182, the traffic at this intersection will automatically get more congested and not handle much more than what exists now. Our current neighborhood is isolated from through traffic. Part of the reason we moved there in 2011 was because it was isolated. There wasn't a lot of traffic, people driving 30, 40, 50 miles an hour down the roads. And it's nice and quiet. Everybody drives slow and takes care of each other, watches out for each other. There's kids that play around in the street and don't have to worry about it. There's no congestion, and it's quiet. If this new proposal gets changed to change the zoning and they put all these houses in, according to the proposal that I saw, there was only 2 access roads that come out of that new area, and what that will do is cause a backup there, and then all of those people in that new addition will have to backtrack through our neighborhood to use Maple, Willow, and Argent, which are the only ways to get back out on Road 100. Not to mention high school students. We'd mentioned Chihuahua is overcrowded as it is, and if there's any high school students in this new proposed area, they're going to have to go right through my neighborhood, right by my house, to go to school, because the other way is going to be too crowded. Here's some of my concerns. The increasing number of drivers. If you propose 389 lots in this new development, let's say there's 2 to 3 vehicles at each household, that's another 1,000 drivers. And as I spoke earlier, and you'll probably hear from other people, the Road 100 is already, it's not built for with the traffic that it has now, and there's no way to widen it in some areas. from Road 100 or from Maple Street to Court Street, you can't widen it any more than it is. The current residents west and south of the new area may use the new route instead of the current outlets at Maple, Willow, and Argent, so that'll increase traffic also right through our neighborhoods on these streets that have been dead ends for the last 15 years or more. Our neighborhood rarely gets plowed in the wintertime. My cul-de-sac has never been plowed in 11 years that I've lived there. And so putting all those extra cars and let me back up a little bit. Those 389 lots, if they're medium density or low density homes, they have smaller driveways, which means people are going to have to park on the street. That's going to cause more issues as well, between kids playing in the street, people driving too fast, as we know will happen, and plus the street's not being plowed. It's just going to make it even worse. And what I was told earlier, or I was trying to pay attention earlier, a lot of the information that was up on the screens here today, I had no access to, or I didn't know anything about it until I sat here. So I didn't have any time to prepare. I wasn't able to look at anything up and investigate or do any studies on my own to support any argument. All I can give you is my heartfelt feelings and my opinions on things, but I think that if I would have been able to, or been aware of how to get to some of this other information, I probably would have had a better argument tonight.
Well, I want to remind you and everybody else, we're not talking about this development that they may or may not do. It might be something that looks totally different. We're talking about whether or not the zoning should be changed to be reflective of the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
I've let you go on for quite a while, but I'm hoping that the testimony will be more focused as we move along.
Okay. All right. Well, then I apologize for that, but I don't understand why, if it's already been zoned for commercial or business, and there's already commercial offices, there's banks, there's doctors' offices in the area, I would welcome that sort of building or atmosphere behind our homes or in our neighborhood way more than having 350 or more properties, if that were to happen. So as far as the zoning goes, I have ideas as far as what I would like to see, and I would be happy to help you recruit businesses to come in and do it. We need more restaurants, or we need more, more banks or restaurants or credit unions or something like that, less traffic, and if it is traffic, it's only daylight traffic. We could use a park or a greenway or other things in town in that area. There's nothing for any of our kids to do except for have to drive somewhere to go to a park. I just don't understand why, as far as all the building that's already going on the north side of the highway, I think there's way more room for growth up that direction than there is in that one little 60 or whatever acre area right behind our house. If it's already zoned for commercial, and we have no problem with that. I can't speak for everybody that's gonna or that opposes it, but I would rather see business development in that area, such as restaurants or anything else. Even a gas station or something like that would be better than putting in 300 something households. And again, and I will apologize in advance for this, but if it does get changed to low density homes, I have family members that own property management company, and it doesn't matter what the neighborhood is that it's in or what it's next to, or the prices of the houses or whatever. There's a lot of problems that come with, if you put in medium density or low density homes, they become more affordable, and people will buy one or two or three of them and then rent them out. And then landlord issues, I've heard a lot of nightmare stories about that. And that's one of my fears is by moving it to residential of any kind, I just oppose it. And again, I'll summarize, and I apologize for rambling a little bit, but it's not just a selfish thing because my backyard is up against the field. I know growth is inevitable, and something was going to go in there eventually, but I just don't understand, why not put homes in there that are comparable to ours, the same type of neighborhood, bigger streets, wider streets, bigger driveways, less traffic. But the medium density is not gonna, it's not acceptable in my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming out tonight. So I let the next person come up. Mr. Grimes testified for about 15 minutes. I don't know that that's necessary. So I'd ask you to be a little more focused in your testimony regarding the specific request for a rezone, not what the property developer or property owner may want to do with it later. Thank you for coming out tonight. And your name, please?
My name's Christy Franklin. I live at 10217 Maple Drive. My property is...
I'm going to put you under oath here real quick. I got to do that. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Now, what would you like to say?
Okay, so my property is adjacent to this rezoning idea, and I'm in strong opposition because we recently moved into the neighborhood about 5 years ago, and I homeschooled when we first moved in. And right before COVID hit, I decided, okay, I'm going to put my kids in school. I'm doing it. Well, that was 3 years ago, about 3 years ago now, and the schools were already overcrowded. My children had to be bused across town because there was no space in our boundary district. I have called since I've received this letter to our boundary schools that this proposed residential neighborhood is being proposed in. There's no space for these children. No space in any of these schools. We just had the Pasco School District representative. They're asking to pull in the temporary school buildings for these children at the high school, and they're going to pull them from McLaughlin and Livingston and the other schools. Those schools are already exceeding capacity. There's no plans to build any elementaries. There's no bonds for any new elementaries or middle schools in this boundary district. Where are these children going to go to school? At what extent is the city of Pasco going to prioritize its residents and stop expanding beyond what our school district and our bonds are capable of handling? And that is why I'm in strong opposition as a parent, as somebody that's invested in the city of Pasco. I'm requesting that you deny this and keep it commercial and office because this area is already at capacity for the schools in itself. And that is completely separate from the traffic issues that we're already experiencing in this area. And one other note is that I would like to throw in there Maple and Willow, Road 103. These are older neighborhoods. We have no sidewalks in these neighborhoods and no street lamps. So when we're increasing that traffic and changing it from office and commercial and turning it into residential, it creates a huge safety hazards. And the city of Pasco, from my understanding, has no plans to build any safety features for our older neighborhood. No street lamps to help prevent crime or to prevent accidents. And again, I guess that is why I'm in strong opposition to rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who else would like to testify?
Hello, Mr. Examiner.
Hello, your name and address, please?
My name is Brian Tungesvik. I live at 4202 Road 105.
I can look up your last name, but can you spell it for me, just so I get it down here good?
Sure, it's Tungesvik, Tungesvik.
Perfect. All right, now the right hand. And sir, do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you very much.
So as it was stated earlier, I did submit a letter as well as a petition. All my concerns are issued there or addressed there, and they've already been previously spoken by Mr. Grimes. I'm going to add one thing that I did not include in my letter, and I believe that the city is residentializing, if that's even a word, the city. We're growing too fast with people and we're not catching up with the infrastructure. And this proposal to go to medium density residential is only going to further that problem. There was already presented tonight another proposal for medium density residential, as well as over on the other side of the highway down by the Harris Farms. We're going to have too many people clogging our roads, clogging our schools. Our current zoning in this neighborhood is for office and light residential. And I would like to see it stay that way to allow our city's infrastructure to catch up, provide us a place to have some services, restaurants, things like that, so we can allow our schools to catch up, thin out, maybe bonds passed to get our schools to stop busting at the seams. I will say also, I am a former law enforcement officer and I have technical collision investigation experience, and I have a serious concern for the traffic impacts that any residential is going to bring to the area, let alone the medium density R3 zoning. So that is what I wanted to add to the record tonight. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
All right, you're very welcome. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Who else would like to testify tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. My name is David Solem, 10406 West Maple Drive in Pasco.
And is that S-O-L-E-M?
S-O-L-E-M, correct.
All right. All right, sir, I'll have you raise your right hand for me. Sir, do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
Yes.
And I did listen to your phone message today, so what would you like to tell me?
Okay, well, again, I think part of it was just trying to get the information. I don't believe I was notified. I must be farther than 300 feet away, so, and have been out of town. So I will go on the record saying I'm opposed to the proposed rezone application for Magnolia Heights, the subject of this hearing. First of all, I think that retail and office development is already limited in West Pasco and is something that we actually need. Road 68 has become so congested with the grocery stores and that type of thing that, quite frankly, we quite often don't shop in Pasco anymore. We leave to get to a non-congested place that you can get in and out of reasonably. My second point is the traffic study was what I called about, and I saw I was able to find a letter from PBS about the traffic study and certain intersections that they were going to be looking at. It didn't appear that they were going to be looking at traffic impacts from Road J or proposed Road J and Road M, the outlets to Road 100. And then also the fourth intersection that they say they are going to look at is Broadmoor Boulevard / Chapel Hill Crescent Road. Crescent Road and Chapel Hill are not connected at this point in time. The young lady mentioned earlier that that was going to be a part of this project, but I certainly don't see it in the materials that that's a condition that's required that would take the traffic from Crescent out to Road 100 at the intersection of Chapel Hill. If it isn't connected, that traffic from that part of the development will just get dumped out on Crescent, which has nowhere to go except maybe you can find your way down Road 111 to Court Street, and then Court Street will take all the traffic and get you back to Road 100. Because I think, as it's been pointed out, Maple Drive, where I live, is a horrible place to try to get out from Maple to Road 100. Maple Street from 104 to 100 is barely a single lane road. It has no curbs, no sidewalks, it has street parking. The mail delivery is at individual houses. It's been tore up, it's rough. It is not a thoroughfare for much traffic at all. And then once you get there and have to turn north or left when you hit the intersection, I mean, it is a very precarious place to get out. If you're pulling a trailer or a RV or a boat, it's even worse. It's my understanding that they're also building a fire station right at that intersection of 100 and Maple, which will be even make things even worse. I think it's a major safety issue that we're creating here, and so it will affect the quality of my life and the neighbors, and I don't think that it's something that we should allow without looking at it much more carefully. Again, I think the traffic that they're saying is going to go out to 100, it's not going to happen. You can't get left. You can't turn north off of those streets. There's too much traffic on the road already. And then again, as I said, I think that we'll end up having traffic go through the neighborhood, trying to get through either Court Street, Willow, Maple. Again, I live between 105 and 104, the dead-end streets. I've lived there for 12 years. Those are, areas that kids do kind of think that, there's not going to be traffic going through here. They're dead ends, just the residents themselves, but no one else goes through. And after that long a period of time, to open it up to potentially all kinds of traffic, even whether it's residential or retail, I have some concerns even with that. So in conclusion, I do feel my property values will suffer. I think public safety will be compromised, and Pasco will end up with a new Road 68 disaster to deal with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Solom. Invite the next person up to testify. And again, I'll have to say this. I mean, it's one of the problems when in a rezone application, the applicant submits a proposed development plan because everybody then wants to testify about that proposed plan instead of the rezone. So we're not talking about the Magnolia plan. We're talking about whether or not the rezone criteria have been met. So if you start talking off topic, I'm just going to have to let you know that you're missing the point. So, sir, what is your name and address, please?
Justin Stone, 10217 Maple Drive.
All right, Mr. Stone, would you raise your right hand for me? Sir, do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. And sir, what would you like to tell me?
I'd like to go on the record, as all the previous speakers have, that I am against this rezoning from commercial and light office, the rezoning in general, just because, as previously stated, there aren't a lot of options when it comes to eating. There's more offices that could be used out there. And I am worried about the value of our home. We have 1.1 acre, won't get into that. Just against the zoning, wanted to go on the record that any rezoning from office and light commercial, I feel would be detrimental to this area of Pasco as a whole. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stone. Would anybody else like to testify?
Good evening, Mr. Examiner.
Hello, your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Karen Allen, and I live at 10703 Oak Lane
And is it Allen with an A-N or an E-N?
with an E-N.
All right, that's what I put. All right, would you raise your right hand for me? Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
Yes,
All right, thank you. What would you like to tell me?
yes, I'll just make this very brief. I just want to reaffirm, just a couple of points that you've already heard tonight. I did sign the petition that went around, and I did help circulate the petition. I assure you, there are many of the neighbors that are opposed to the rezoning of the area that we're talking about with this plat. You've heard about the traffic. I just want to drive the point home by saying that under oath, I will tell you, it is not unusual to see fender benders from Chapel Hill all the way to the exit ramps, to the overpass that goes north on Road 100, where the northbound drivers need to get onto the on-ramp to get on the interstate. Now, anybody that takes the Road 100 exit for their travels knows, especially at certain times of the day, the interstate right-hand lane that you must take to exit Road 100 gets backed up significantly. It gets backed up on the bridge, or maybe at certain times of the day, it is, just before the bridge. I have oftentimes had to drive 60 miles an hour on a long lane of traffic because there is such a backup at that exit. Now, I know that's another issue, and the state's working on it and so forth. But with the rezoning to residential, I was blown away looking at this map that this qualified for medium density. I saw those rows of townhouses, and it scared me, really, because my property lines the field. So you can imagine what my thoughts were. But anyway, just like Mr. Grimes had mentioned earlier, possibly up to 1,000 additional vehicles we're talking about. So this is a very real issue. I can assure you, the neighbors I have talked to couldn't be here or didn't want to come here, but they signed the petition, and they have lived in that area since, many of them have lived there since Wilson Addition was built. And it frightens them to think about the traffic. So I thank you for the time.
All right, thank you for coming in. Does anybody else wish to testify? Hello.
This is weird. I don't know where you sit. I don't know where to look. I don't know why you're not here, and I don't even know your name.
My name is Andy Kotkamp.
Huh?
My name is Andy Kotkamp.
How you
I'm the
spell
hearing
that?
examiner for the city of
How
Pasco.
you spell your last name?
Kottkkamp.
Cot Camp. Okay, Andy. There's an old phrase, friends come and go, but enemies keep piling up. And I'm going on to 70, and my enemy pile is getting up there quite a ways. But I tell it like
I
see
need to
it.
have your name and an address, and then I need to swear you in under oath.
David Hannum, just like Alex Hannum, the coach of the 76ers. He's a relative of mine. He's dead now. deceased.
I'm sorry, I got caught up in the story and I missed your name. What's your first name, please?
David
And your last name?
Hannum,
Can you spell it for me?
I hope so. Hannum.
All right, sir. I'm going to have you raise your right hand for me. You swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give tonight will be the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. What would you like to tell me?
Well, a lot of people already stole my thunder, so I'm getting down to a pretty short list, and they all told the truth, so I can't agree with them more. They did a great job. So I'm down to kind of some short items here. But first of all, is a comment, you know, you're reminding people this isn't about what they're going to do. It's about just changing the zoning language. But on the public notice, it says medium density residential from business and office to medium density residential. And this flyer came around, I think maybe the lady, I don't know who it was, she came by my house, I don't know. Anyway, she dropped this off a couple of days ago and I thought, wow, I didn't know anything about this. So, you know, I get to looking at it and I thought, I don't even know where the roads are. There's no reference roads really, Road 100, I got that. But anyway, on the flyer itself from your public notice, medium density residential. And we're talking about changing the language of what this property used to be or is to what they want it to be. But in the same breath, they have their plan. So how are we supposed to sit here and think about this like, well, yeah, well, we just want to change it, the name, but we're not going to talk about the plan. So I'm not sure why they're including a planned site development on this thing if this exercise that we have tonight in this hearing is just about saying, okay, we want to go from office retail to medium density residential. Okay, fine. That's in the discussion. There should be no map with all these great plans on it to get everybody upset and concerned and wondering what's going on. And oh my God, I live next to this. Look, I've been here over 20 years on Willow Way. Wilson built it. He did a good job. And when I look at this map, I can't see anything except this is high density housing. Period. Cracker box, high density housing. Nobody wants it except the developer. Because if you chopped 100 acres into, like Wilson did, say about 150 parts, and you got 4/10 to half an acre per home, I don't think anybody out here would be too upset with that because that's just a kind of continuation. It's not that many people. But this plan sucks. Excuse my French, but this plan sucks. We're not here to talk about that plan. We're talking about changing the name, right? For medium or whatever it is. I don't know. I can't follow these. I'm not good at this. But from office and retail business to medium density residential. Well, you know, I think that's a ploy on words. When you combine it with this map, it's confusing. People are already crossing their eyes saying, what is this all about? Who's smoking dope here? Somebody's got too much fentanyl in their brain or something. So, all the issues I agree with what everybody else is talking about. I'm not going to go into all those issues. So my list keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And I'm down to one topic that fits this kind of planning where somebody's going to come in, change the rules or whatever, and then build a whole bunch of stuff like over on Chapel Hill where everything's like starting houses. It's socially a negative impact on the social structure of the community for all the reasons that have already been given. But there's one other thing that really disturbs me, and it gets no attention. I've even gone out to other offices, other people in public utility districts and things like that, and I've tried to convince them to open your eyes, open up your brain, and look at this issue. Now, here's a report. This report is called Radio Frequency Microwave Radiation Biological Effects and Safety Standards, a review from the United States Air Force. It's 22 pages long, and it's got attachments. When you look at a site plan like this, or it's this one or any of these other ones that you guys have been approving, where you're packing houses in close proximity to each other, since the utilities put in all these smart meters, you need to read this report. And there's other reports like it. Because this whole concept of, well, it's safe and effective, kind of like we've been hearing lately for 2 years, safe and effective, well, yeah, heart attack, dead, we don't know, unknown causes. This report will blow your mind. Now, these high-density houses here, you can call it medium, but these high-density houses all have these smart meters, and when they can click, and it doesn't get their tree in a way. So it bounces, and it keeps looking for a route, and the whole neighborhood just lights up with RF transmitting signals, let alone all the approvals that have been given for all these microwave towers. These microwave towers are putting out at least 400 watts. If you read this report, we're talking microwatts for cellular damage, heart problems, ear problems, ocular problems, separation of the little particulate matters in your cells at the DNA level. There's all kinds of technical language in here, but if you read it, you're going to say, who in the right mind wants to start building society? Which we're doing here, we're building. Build back better or build back worse? Biden says build back better, the Pope says build back better, Klaus Schwab says build back better, and in a few more years, the World Economic Forum, as we're going through Q3 of a recession, I don't know how this is going to get paid for, but
sir, you've got to stay focused. This is way off base on whether or not this rezone criteria is being met. I'm not going to allow you to spend everybody else's valuable time going into your detail on the RF contamination issue that you want to raise. You just have to sum it up. If that's your one issue you want to talk about, you need to sum that up.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned in your own words, Andy, you talked about this is a hearing and we don't ask questions. Well, you have to forgive my ignorance, but I am going to ask a question. Where's the venue to figure out what's going on so that we are prepared to come here? I don't know where that's at. Now, you don't have to answer that because that's a question, and you're not allowed to answer questions. So I'm asking that question because I'm offended in the sense that how many times has this gone on? Probably hundreds. And the general public is being left out. We're being left ignorant. We have to run to catch a flyer on the street while we're out mowing the yard to figure out, oh, they're going to bulldoze this all down and rezone. There's no communication. It's a shutdown. And then we come here, we get told, oh, you can't ask questions. This is a hearing. Well, okay. Then where do we ask questions before you sign over saying, Well, I guess it's okay. We're gonna rezone this. We're gonna change it. That's okay. Okay, now you got a plan to put all this crap in that nobody wants? Okay, that's okay too. Well, we don't buy it. We don't like it. We don't want it. Now there's, I don't know, countless people out there in the neighborhoods that don't want it. Now, what is this all about? This rezone plan that you're looking at. This rezone plan is about one thing. It's about money. That's what it's all about. One person making a lot of money and everybody else getting the finger. I'd parse my words carefully. This is crap. And as far as you go, I hope you get a booster shot. Be safe and effective. Stand in front of a microwave tower and tell everybody what a great life you have.
All right, anybody else wish to offer any testimony tonight?
Mr. Examiner, I believe there are 3 people online. I will first unmute Ms. Julie Schmidt. Ms. Schmidt, it appears you're self-muted. There you go.
Hi, I don't have anything to add. I think my neighbors have spoken very well. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Secondly, I will unmute, Sergey Savchuk. Mr. or Ms. Savchuk, you are self-muted. There
I
you
have
go.
nothing to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And lastly, Ms. Wendy Thompson. Ms. Thompson, you are unmuted, or self-muted, excuse me.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was going to be asked. I would say that.
Do you want to, wait, man. If you want to testify, we got a few things to do. I need you to say your name again, and then I'm going to put you on, under oath.
Okay. My name is Wendy Thompson. I live at 10305 Maple Drive. And
now, I'll have you raise your right hand and I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, you can trust me. I swear.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony given tonight will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. Now, what would you like to tell me?
Well, I do want to just add a little bit to it, but I was not aware of the strength of the neighborhood on this. I agree with the testimony given about the safety concerns with the traffic and the density. So a couple of things I want to add on. I've lived in this neighborhood since 1985. I've been in the old residential part. Previously said, we don't have sidewalks. I was here when it was Franklin County before the city annexed us. And I was here when they rezoned the neighborhood that was part of agriculture from a light density to a medium, to a different density. Okay, so I've watched this and I'm adjacent to the property behind me and I was always told light office. Behind my location, it's light office. And what I heard from the engineering firm supporting the applicant that, well, to kind of fit in with the density, we will make it bigger lots. And you can see it. And I do agree with the idea. You set out this plan. I know we're here for the rezoning. I'm against it, number one. But secondly, so at some point, I assume when a development is finalized, which if you sent this out, I'm thinking this is the development plan that's in the hopper right now to support all the growth that's needed. But otherwise, what's to stop this density from going to those few townhomes on the north edge by Crescent to becoming all townhomes. You know, the infrastructure out here does not support it. And I'm concerned. I try to get out on Road 100 and Chihuahua. You can see it, the times of day when it's really bad is when Chihuahua is going, school is on, school is off, and it is impossible to get out. I support the growth in terms of office and residential because we do not have that out here. Number one, and I agree, 68 is a nightmare where I try to do my shopping, but I'd rather go across the bridge to Richland personally. Getting back to Road 100, I have seen accidents on top of the crest of the 182 bridge with that traffic. I have changed my mindset in travel from my work area in Richland over here to slow down, even if I can't see a car, because the bridge crests and it'll be backed up. The traffic can't handle it, the safety, no sidewalks, the kids, the traffic down my road since the development next to me, it's gotten horrendous, you know, and I will say I moved here because it was a quiet place and I had horses and I could ride them out along the field up to the sand dunes. So yes, things have changed. But for Pete's sakes, please think about the infrastructure for this. And my number one concern right now, in addition to all this I've heard, if you say, well, this is just the rezoning, then you tell me this plat map isn't going to look worse once P&R Development gets it and starts planning who's going to build what where. And that's all I have to say, and I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you very much. I think that takes care of everybody online. Is that correct, Mr. White?
Yes, sir.
And I assume since we went online that we took care of everybody in the hearing room, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, is there anything further from staff?
No, sir.
All right, is there anything further from the applicant?
Yes.
All right, this is Christy Badiola again with Harms Engineering, representing the applicant. And I think a lot of the concerns that the neighbors have, I mean, it's certainly understandable. I know that the traffic is bad over there. And the city understands that the traffic is bad over there, which is why any kind of development in this location is required to have a traffic impact study and to contribute towards the improvements that are going to be needed in this area. The roads that would be put in for this development are actually going to be beneficial for the neighboring properties because then they will actually also have additional routes to get up to Chapel Hill, additional ways to get to Road 100 and to get around some of the traffic problems. I think, we're trying to match what it has on the land use designation. We can't go R1 or R2. Well, we can't do R1 because that's not part of the medium density residential, which is what is on the land use designation. So in order for us to do this as residential, which is what the property owners and the developer want to do, we have to be in the medium density, and that's where the R3 comes in. So anyhow, I guess that's all I wanted to add. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. All right, everyone, what I'm going to do now is I am going to close the record on this hearing. I will have a recommended decision to the city council made within the next 10 working days. As I indicated to everyone at the start of the hearing, on these rezone applications, I make recommendations and city council will have the entire record before them to be able to review, and they will make the final decision on each of these rezone applications, and those decisions are subject to appeal. There are no other items on tonight's agenda. I do appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I'm now going to adjourn this September 14th, 2022 meeting of the City of Pasco Hearing Examiner. I hope you all have a nice evening. This meeting is adjourned.